shrines in Breath of the Wild range in difficulty from easy to Miroshas, with the latter of them often being described with less than nice adjectives. Let's make them worse. Starting with Shoha, the main difficulty of the shrine comes from a section where you shoot fiery arrows at pedestals, so I'm attempting to beat it without a bow. First I borrowed a potted, then I teleported to and entered the shrine. Inside I used magnesis on a spiky block and 2 magic cue balls to build a stairway leading to the first pedestal and a torch. Using the torch, I lit the first pedestal and then jumped at the right time to activate the second pedestal. Next, I had to light a distant pedestal, which I could do by throwing the pedestal, but just hitting it isn't enough. The torch doesn't respawn, so it needs to land on the platform for me to progress. Timing and aiming this throw isn't easy, but also not insanely precise, and it only took me a few attempts. Now I can access this switch, dodge a trap and pick up the torch again. Next are some guardians, which die after a few bombs, allow me to progress. Then I had to stasis one of the water dispensers to activate both pedestals and proceed to the challenging part of the shrine, activating 2 more pedestals on moving platforms at the same time. My first idea was to stasis the closest platform, then hit it with a torch throw and shield jump over, then throw the torch at the second platform. In theory it should work, but the timing for the second throw is tight, and unlike the first, the second one needs to be spot on. And after many attempts, I almost got it, but wasn't fast enough. To increase my odds, I devised a plan. Throw the torch, shield jump over, and wait on the first platform until stasis is off cooldown, and then use it again. This method worked great and made the second throw much more manageable, and not too long after I got this attempt. Nice, we got it. Now I just had to get the torch over. It's a scary throw, but not too difficult. Next, I used stasis on the water dispenser and magnesis on the platform to move the pedestal across safely. Some stronger guardians block the way, but they are blind and deaf and also don't seem to care about damage. And once only one guardian with almost no health was left, I was confident enough to finish the job. To complete the shrine, I carried the burning torch over to this spot, then spin attacked, and that's it. Onto Miroshas. The shrine is a golf course, famous for destroying weapons and sanity alike. But my weapon's durability is safe, because I will beat the shrine without them, which will take a while, so here's a timer. The goal is to move this orb past the fence and beyond the water into this hole. By jumping on this lamp and then throwing the orb, I almost cleared the fence, but not quite, so I needed to use bombs. So I don't have enough firepower to explode the orb all the way, but enough to clear the fence. If you do it right, which is tricky, especially since the circle bomb tends to roll away. I came up with a semi-consistent setup that explodes the orb over the fence into water, which is also game over, because the orb doesn't float and getting it out is pretty much impossible. So I tried to use Cryonis to build a platform for the orb to land on, which didn't work, so I built a wall instead. Both shield jumping and wind bombing can clear the fence, but I prefer wind bombs, even if they introduce the risk of drowning. After reaching the walkway, I built a platform and tried to throw the orb onto it, which looks a lot easier than it actually is. And even when taking aim beforehand, it took me a few attempts. With the orb in position, I carefully climbed the ice block and used Cryonis to build a bridge and slowly moved the orb along until the platform was in range, then threw and carried it to the finish. The orb doesn't need to stay in the hole to progress, so I thought, why not take it with me? I did just that, and things were going well until this obstacle. I jumped on this block and threw the orb, but it fell short. Luckily, Link can't stand here, so I could recover Borb. Next, I tried launching the block while standing on it, which didn't work and almost killed me. But by pushing the block, then using stasis and jumping on it, I could make the throw and carry Borb to the second trial. There, I attempted to stand on one orb to throw the second over the fence, but I always slid off, so it was back to the old strategy, which doesn't work anymore since the path is shorter. I came up with an even worse setup, but it gets the job done. And in case you were wondering, hitting the switch only resets one orb. The new setup failed a lot, but worked eventually, unlike my throws which kept missing. Then I came up with a strategy of using this obstacle as a safeguard, which finally got the orb onto the ice and allowed me to carry it to the end. Then I saw it grow in the distance. It was Borb, lying there, alone and forgotten, and things couldn't end like this. I only had one shot to successfully reunite Borb with the other orb. If I messed up and Borb landed in water, I had no way of getting him out. So I moved him into position and got this attempt. No, please don't fall. Oh my fucking god. After wind bombing over, I tried to use a safeguard strategy, but it didn't work, even after many attempts. And I eventually messed up and threw him over the fence. I recovered, but still couldn't get him onto the ice, and messed up again. After recovering once more and failing over and over again, I decided to take a risk. The gamble paid off, and with hands shaking, I carefully built a bridge. And at last, Borb and the other orb were finally reunited. Was it worth it?